All right. Welcome back to another Serious Angler podcast, everybody. Happy New Year. Happy 2021. Sayonara 2020. Joined here by my good buddies and co-host Andy Full and Rich Lindgren, a.k.a. HellaBass. What's going on, fellas?
Not a whole lot.
Dude, you are so whooped.
I think I would be used to it by now after steelhead the last 12 years and it being 28 degrees out and windy, but you just never really get used to it. Hiking, and I just looked at it. I climbed like 28 flights of stairs today up and down hills and stuff. Yeah, I'm like, God,
You're worn out.
I was walked. Yeah.
You got your workout in today, though. We were just talking about that, about getting back into the grind, and you definitely got your work in today. That's for sure.
And I ate a cheeseburger and just had a chicken sub.
Have yourself a beer, Andrew. Good job.
Yeah. Cheers to 2021, fellas.
Happy New Year's, everybody at home. Grab a water, a beverage, a Coke, a cocktail, a sports drink, whatever you're in the mood for, and let's hang out and talk some fishing.
Heck yeah.
What's
We
up,
are still waiting on Kevin. The old man probably fell asleep on us, took a nap, but he'll be joining in tonight with us. It's going to be a relaxed night tonight. We're going to sit back. We're going to talk about our year, 2020, talk about some hopes and dreams for 2021, talk some baits, talk a whole bunch of stuff. We've actually I put out a poll on the Instagram feed, Instagram today of different questions people have for us, and we'll go over that as well later in the show, but it should Scott Klein says cheers. Lucas, that wouldn't be the first time. But yeah, I guess we'll start it off with we'll go around and talk about our year. Like talk about some highlights, some like a best day on the water, best day off the water. Andy, I'm sure I know what your on the water is, but you want to go first?
Well, yeah, that was probably a high point for tournament fishing, but a couple other like on the water things. I tried and learned some new techniques that I've never done and got more comfortable with some things. And then off the water, finally got certified by the United States Coast Guard to become a Marine Merchant Licensed Captain. So in 2021, we're going to start guiding.
Heck yeah. Congratulations again, dude.
Thanks.
Quick question. Do guests get discounts?
You're always welcome, Rich.
Well, I didn't say welcome. I mean, do I get a discount?
We can I don't think Andy will charge you.
Promotional rate?
Exactly. We'll make it work.
Yeah, I think if you just plug Andy's face on your YouTube channel, he won't charge you nothing.
I can use red ones.
Yeah. Jay says, Happy New Year's, guys. Love the show. Thank you, Jay. Appreciate it.
Little history on Jay Russell there. He's actually in the club that I'm vice president in Western New York Bassmasters. And quick shout out to him at the end of every year for the last 2 years. He's actually brought us pizza. So we get off the water and we got pizza waiting. While he fishes, he owns a pizzeria. I can't remember the name of it. So you can plug it here, Jay, if you want. But delicious pizza. Oh,
man. Yeah, definitely plug that. I need to know that for next time I'm in Buffalo. Yeah. Jake, drop that down in the comments. I need that link. That's sweet. But you got you got your captain's license, so you're going to be starting up the guiding, which is pretty exciting. You can sayonara to the bank, correct?
Hopefully, eventually, maybe at the end of 2021. So that's like the goal for 2022. If it happens sooner, it happens sooner. But I only have a 19-foot boat at the moment, so I got to upgrade the boat first, and hopefully we can have some good rolling momentum and some return clients so we can jump ship.
Heck yeah. Well, I hope you do, dude. Obviously,
yeah, it'd be nice.
But Rich, what about you, man?
I mean, highlight definitely on the water was making the Bass Nation National Championships. Didn't close the deal, didn't fish the final day, didn't ultimately get a chance to make the classic. Obviously, that would have been the ultimate. But it was a good year overall. I mean, I did well. I didn't fish a ton of tournaments, but the ones I did, I fished really well in for the most part. Off the water, I don't know. I didn't get COVID, so there's that. Main Street Pizzeria, Youngstown, New York.
Yeah, hit them up.
It's good stuff.
Area. Yeah.
Heck yeah, it's good stuff.
Dang. Yeah, that had to be a really cool experience. You posted like videos of like getting on stage and everything. And I remember when you put out on your social media, like trying to get people to help with your was it your walk up song, as they call it. Yeah, like just that atmosphere had to be pretty cool. Just because for me, I've never experienced anything like that. So was that your first time making it to the national championship?
No, it's the second time. And it was probably a little more low key this time with this year being COVID. There wasn't as many people there, and they did things a little bit differently. The last time I went was 2013, and that was the year Paul Mueller won it, and when he made the elites in the classic and put him in that classic where he had the biggest bag on gunner. Like that whole path that he went on was that tournament. And Dave Mercer was the MC for that one. Like he called off our boats in the morning, just like he does for the Elite Series and the drive-through. Awesome. But they do. Even with the COVID year, it was they put us up in a hotel. They had banquets every night. They had an itinerary. They had a boat yard. They kind of did the call outs. Like they announced every single boater in Co-Angler's name as you rolled out. Boat 1 through 50 or whatever it was. Drive through weigh-ins, stage, walk-up music, live stream the weigh-in. So it's about as close as you're going to get to an Elite Series or Classic tournament without actually making it. It's really a chance to, it's definitely worth doing. Don't ever blow that off for some other. It's literally probably one of the best 5 tournaments you can fish in your life, I would say. Outside of maybe I wouldn't say outside of, tournaments that are in the same realm, the Classic, the All-American, maybe the Cup in a day, and some of those type tournaments. But it's literally up on that plateau, I think.
Yeah, definitely. And if for those who are tuning in right now that aren't already, who haven't checked out your YouTube channel, I know you have videos of day 1 and 2 up on your YouTube channel and some videos of your travels. So if you guys aren't already, head over to Rich's channel. I believe I have it down in the description, actually. So you guys can go right down and look at it and subscribe to his channel. He's got some really good information videos out there. Was it the championship for you to qualify for the national championship where you were just blasting him on a frog?
No, that was actually the TBF series. So that's there's the Bass Nation and the TBF. So that's the FLW version. But yeah, that path, I did pretty well on frogs in that tournament, but I got some good frog footage. But I would say, off the water was probably just the success of my channel, just the growth this year. Is pretty cool. The growth of the community. I see a lot of people in the chat, like Tom and, I can't shout out to Tom and Michael Minnan and 513 Plumbing and all those guys, Shadow Bass, and these are all guys that I see all the time on my channel, and I see them a lot on Baxter's channel too. So there's definitely just been a growth of people that are invested in me and the channel, and it's awesome to see. And I get a ton of DMs and texts and Instagrams and comments, and it's just really cool to see that. And obviously we're not blowing up like the Googans or anything like that, but for me it was a really rewarding year for the channel. So
heck yeah. I think I first started tuning into your channel, I think it was right at 1,000 maybe, and now you're at 3.2.
No, 2. We'll probably hit 2,900 probably today or tomorrow.
Oh, okay.
And then, probably hopefully in the next week or so hit 3,000.
Nice.
Oh, there he is, the slacker himself.
Fashionably late. I'm sorry.
What's going on, man?
I even got the wrong hat, but that's okay. I'm sorry.
No worries at all.
You do not have to apologize.
It is a laid-back night tonight. We got everybody coming in the chat who's hanging out and asking questions, and we're just glad to have you, Kev.
Thanks, man. Is my mic echoing or anything?
What's that?
Is my mic echoing?
No.
It doesn't seem to be.
Loud and clear here. Still got COVID?
I might die too.
Wrong pipe. You guys are witnessing the downfall.
Whoa.
Remember that time Baitman died on your stream in that video?
How to start 2021.
How the Serious Angler podcast took off was Baitman died on the channel on the live stream.
Man, when the Mountain Dew hits.
We're getting a bunch of questions here in the chat too, so that's
there's good ones.
Yeah, let's start ringing some away. I like this one, which is an interesting one because there's not a lot of fisheries that you can do in it. Is how to catch and find smallmouth at grass. I think like the biggest fishery for me that pops up in is like St. Clair, and that's just finding boulders and grass lines. Is what, from what I took from the Bass Live this past season. You guys have any input?
Yeah, we kind of talked about this when I had smallmouth experience on my channel a couple weeks ago, and we both kind of I think the one thing, look for sparse grass, look for hard bottom, look for gravel, sand areas, or the edges. You know, it's really rare that you're going to find smallies, at least on these northern natural lakes, like in the thick grass like you will largemouth. Like if it's like a solid weed bed, you're probably not going to catch them flipping in it. You might catch them flipping the edge, but you know, work the edges, work the holes, and sometimes like just like really terrible looking grass, like stuff that I call like perch grass or like pike grass. If it's sandy, gravelly flats, you know, throw a spinnerbait or a topwater or a jerkbait Kitech and cover water. You'd be surprised. There's a lot of roaming schools probably pushing perch or other type of bait on those flats. So those are some of the things I look for on natural lakes that have grass, at least inland. I mean, St. Clair is almost more of a Great Lake, so that might be a little different. But
right. Yeah, I think Bill Weiler basically he was doing is essentially that, but just staying on weed lines and just using Panoptics. That was about it. Andy, what about you? I know a lot of your experience is Lake Erie, but
so I mean, I have Lake Erie in the Upper Niagara, and a little thing about my end of Lake Erie is we don't have a ton of grass. We have a couple areas that do have it. We need low water years for the grass to grow, but the best way that we've been able to get them to fire would be on like a DT4 and just like tipping it on top of the grass. And if it starts balling up, you'd rip it out and pause and they would come up and eat it. Or on the Upper Niagara, every once in a while, we can catch them in the summer on jerk baits over top of suspended grass. But it's got to be sparse, and it has to be a certain type.
Yeah, when we fished that Niagara, that grass is actually in there pretty thick.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But they're probably still closer to the edges, unless there's a lot of water above it.
There's some flats on the Upper Niagara that are in like 8 to 10 foot, but they come off the shore like 50, 75 yards, and you'll have a mix of coontail and like I think it's like eelgrass, like the northern strain of eelgrass, whatever it is. And it'll be mixed in there, and wherever the coontail is sparse, you can get them sometimes. It's rare, but it happens.
I don't have anything to add to that because we don't have any grass in here. So I would just say I'd pay Smallmouth Crush $250 to figure it
out per hour.
Oh boy. Well, Lucas, I can't even pronounce your last name, man. I'm so sorry. But he said when Kevin stays up to a new year, he just can't get enough sleep. So he's throwing shots at
man. It's all right. It's all good, man. I have had a heck of a day. So
you've had a heck of a year, dude.
I know. My year started awesome because, you know, my truck's messed up. But I think it's a cheap fix. But it's not a good feeling when you're sitting in a stoplight and you hit the gas and it dies. But luckily, got to take care of. First person to call me, though, Matt Robertson. He said, I ain't close to you, but I'll send my wife. I'll get you taken care of.
The proper bassing, man.
He has proper bassing as it is. Luckily, my neighbor just happened to drive by, and he got me taken care of. But we're talking fishing, so
yeah.
This will be positive for the rest of 2021 now.
Heck yeah, positive year. Backlash Pro put this in. Actually, I don't know the full story on this, so maybe you guys can get the scoop. But Sportsman's Warehouse getting bought out by White River Marine Group.
Yep, Bass Pro, Cabela's. I did hear that.
So there's a monopoly going on in the fishing industry, basically. No,
not a monopoly. Not even close.
It's like an oligopoly.
What?
I believe that's actually a thing.
I've never heard that term used before. Have you got any backstage knowledge for us that you're allowed to?
Yeah, so I see this a lot, and I think think, Bailey, you might be the first non-redneck I've seen use the word monopoly in Bass Pro Shops in a sense lately. If you look up the term monopoly, it basically means one business takes control of a certain product and they take control of it, and nobody else can use it, carry that service, and able to dictate the price where it's unattainable. Bass Pro Shops, White River Marine Group, is not a monopoly. First off, even though Johnny Morris may own Ranger and Triton and Nitro and a couple other Tracker, that's not the entire Marine. He doesn't own Skeeter, Bullet, all this, name a bunch of them, Bass Cat. He doesn't own all those. He doesn't own Yamaha outboards. He doesn't own Mercury. That's not a monopoly. Now, he did acquire several brands, and obviously he has a large piece of the pie. Bass Pro Shops, Cabela's, Sportsman's Warehouse, which, to be honest with you, is pretty low on the totem pole. They may have had a lot of stores, but I've never heard anybody say, "Damn, I'm really excited to go down to Sportsman's Warehouse." They probably, there might be a few locally, but
it actually probably is a bigger move in the hunting and
yes, in the hunting deal, it probably is a big deal. But
Virginia's got a couple that are pretty big, but they're all, like you just said, Rich, they're all hunting.
But here's the deal. There's still Academy, whether you like them or not. Decks, there's, they're kind of more of a sporting goods where it's got golf and all that. And you got King Tackle Warehouse. You got Hookup Tackle. You can still go buy fishing tackle at your mom and pop store. So it's not really a monopoly. Again,
so monopoly has to control everything then.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Right. It's not just
a majority.
A majority. Right.
Yeah.
And even like point, it sounds like a lot, but it's really not a majority. If you count all the independent stores out there, and several of my friends that are still in the industry, especially as reps, there's a huge rise in the independent shop right now. Now, saying that, some of those places, they don't help themselves. They don't run sales. They don't have any online presence. They think they can run their social media, and they post once every month. Instead of hire someone great like Bailey to come run their social for them, they let their niece in middle school try to do it, and it doesn't work out. So as long as we got Tackle Warehouse and several others, we're going to be okay. I don't shop at Bass Pro, so
yeah, I would say don't sleep and think if you think about brands like Trilene and Strike King and Power Bait, and Walmart sells a lot, Walmart, right?
Walmart's huge.
And I think there's a lot of
remember. I'm sorry, I went on a little bait rant there, Bailey. I've been holding that in for a bit. I was actually going to make, put that on one of my streams, but a lot of the tournament level bass fishermen is a very small percentage of the fishing population.
Right.
It's amazing what Tackle Warehouse does, but I'm in several fishing groups, and a lot of the people that are ordering from there too they don't fish tournaments. They see cool stuff on YouTube, Instagram, and they order there. But Walmart's huge, man.
Yeah. The Walmarts by us suck. I know that. Andy could probably attest to that too.
Every once in a while, they'd have those finesse War Eagle spinnerbaits, like the 3/16s and the 5/16s. And I remember, I think it was 5 years ago, they accidentally mislabeled them on the shelf when I was walking through. And I think I bought all 15 of them that they had on the shelves for $1.97 a piece. I was pretty stoked about that one. I'm down to my last two because of pike biting them off. But
of course,
every once in a while, you'll run into a smoking deal. My buddy got a Quantum Smoke 6'10" medium light spinning rod from there a few years ago for $40 or something ridiculous, because they put one of their low end Walmart Quantum stickers on it instead of the smoke sticker. So
yeah, Walmart's not going to have any the stuff you're looking for, but they got most of the stuff you need, if that makes sense.
If you're man, you go to a new town. What if I go visit Rich and I leave my freaking 5/0 EWG hooks? Guess where I go? Walmart.
Because they're going to have
Might not be what I like, but they'll have them there.
Right. Definitely. Well, for anybody listening, you just got your business degree in the fishing industry, courtesy of Kevin.
Yeah.
What I find most interesting
someone
about
in the chat say that you know, and it's okay to have this opinion. Says sorry, but buying up another business is a path to monopoly. I disagree with that. There's sometimes when a business gets bought out, it has saved the business. If you got a financially failing business and a bigger company comes in and buys you out, you may have just saved a lot of people's paychecks, family, keeping them in business. We don't know what was behind Sportsman's Warehouse. There is actually a lot of competition in that sporting good industry, and I think it was like $14 a share or something like that. So maybe they really needed the money. Maybe they were hurting. Maybe there's a reason Johnny bought them other than just trying to have a monopoly. So you got to look at things in a perspective like that. So
because Sportsman's went through a big consolidation about 8 years ago, because there used to be a handful of stores in Minneapolis and other markets, and a lot of those went away. So yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if that's part of the reason, like you said.
A big one around you.
This guy's mad. He says, I do not know how business works. I'm going to keep my mouth shut.
But another thing that I'm interested in too, though, is the fact that around here we have like Field and Streams, which are owned by Dick's. Sportsman's Warehouse recently purchased all of them and converted all the Field and Streams to Sportsman's Warehouse, like right before COVID hit, if I remember correctly, or like during the beginning. Yeah. So there's probably a huge financial burden that they undertook by doing that, and then all hell broke loose with a virus we have no control over. So
yeah, you know, COVID is really hurt a lot of people. I've had it. It sucks. And there's a lot of businesses struggling, but the fishing industry as a whole has done awesome this year. I know Tackle Warehouse has just crushed it, and the independent shops that can stay open or figure out a way to get people in, whether it's deliver their stuff in the parking lot or however they can do it. Also depends if you got a governor that's worth the crap. Ours is like terrible, but
heard that.
It's been crazy. So, you know, there's a lot of moving parts in this deal here. So that's my main point.
Yeah. If you had any online presence, you did well in 2020.
Absolutely.
Tackle shop. Quick question from Jay Russell here. Besides pizza, he asked if I'm trying to teach my son how to use a bait caster. Do you have any suggestions as far as line type and or reel settings to make learning a bit easier? I'm sure you guys have suggestions as well. My suggestion is like a 50-pound braid, something that's thicker and easy to get like backlashes out of, and just set up cones or targets in your backyard with just like a simple weight, set the gears all the way up and start from there. I don't know if you guys have better advice.
It's a good start. Heavier line is usually a little bit easier. The braid, for the most part, is good and easy to pull out. Yeah, you said start with the controls up a little bit. If you can afford it, buying a reel with like magnetic, like a second control besides just the tension brake, you know, that'll definitely help lessen the curve. If you can spend the money to get like at least like $100 reel, like a Fuego or something like that, or I'm sure there's probably some Lew's and Quantums for under 100 that have dual, you know, something that has a dual control on. I would say the other thing that you can, you know, practicing in the backyard in a controlled environment is always good to get used to it before just going out in the boat when you're excited and you're trying to catch fish. The other like really good trick you can do is like have dad take a cast and make a decent cast with it. Put a little piece of like masking tape or scotch tape on the spool and then reel over it. And then that will like limit. It won't stop a backlash, but it'll keep it from like blowing up on them. So those are a couple things you can do. You got anything to add, Kevin?
I actually use heavy mono, like 20 or 25-pound mono. Now I'm working on Baitman Junior right now, so I'm doing the opposite. I just want him to get used to the motion of reeling it and all that. That's kind of what I did with the spinning reel with him. I would cast it out and I would just let him get used to reeling it in, because casting is one thing, but then they got to figure out how to reel it in and all that stuff. So I want him to, obviously, I'm going to put a moving bait of some sort on. Little swim baits on 8,000 jig heads are great, and small spinner baits. Get him in the habit of reeling it in. Use some heavy lines, so when you cast, and if they do backlash, it's a lot easier to pick out 20, 25-pound mono than it is like 10, 12, 14-pound tests, because I've backlashed a lot in my day, so I've got to pick them out. And
I would say avoid things like lipless crankbaits that sink and have treble hooks, and like rig something that you can like something you can rig weedless, like a swim bait or a horny toad or something that floats. That way, when you do have a backlash, you have to pick it out. Like spinner baits are kind of rough because they sink to the bottom if you're weeds, and as soon as if they do have a loop, they pull it out, and then they're like, oh, 20 pounds of weeds, right? So bait selection is something to think about too, to make them less frustrated. So,
all right, that's a good point. Scott Klein asked, and I don't think any of you guys have done a co-angler on the opens. Rich, have you done co-anglers on the opens?
I've done co-angler at the Toyota Costa series, so it's similar.
Andy, I don't think you have, because we never talked about that before. Kevin, have you?
I was co-angler in a. They changed the freaking name of the Toyota series every 2 years, so I guess it was the Toyota series. I was a co-angler in one of those one time.
Okay. Well, Scott, I can give you an update. After he asked how hard it is to get into the Bassmaster Opens as a co-angler without being linked with a pro, and I have no idea how hard that is, which kind of leads me to one of my things for coming up for 2021 is I will be doing the Northerns as a co-angler, and I'll be linking with Destin DeMarion, one of our buddies on the Elite Series. So it's gonna be a big learning year for sure.
I would my advice is there's a group on Facebook called Bassmaster Open Linking or something like that. Join that group and see if there's pros that need links, and then you don't have to worry about how hard it is without a link.
There you go, Scott. Definitely tune in that. Let's see what we got next.
You like my retro hoodie, Baitman?
Yeah, I was gonna comment on it, but I've already said something in the first 5 minutes that I'm trying to just soak it all in.
What's that? It's True Tungsten.
Oh,
I used to have one, and I loved the True Tungsten had good swag. I'm not gonna lie.
Logan Sullivan asked, "Do you throw a crankbait in grass on fluoro or braid?" I don't think I've ever thrown a crankbait on braid unless it was a topwater. So I don't know about you guys.
Fluoro for me.
Fluoro.
Yeah.
I've used braid quite a bit. Let me stop here. If I'm throwing a lipless, I like braid. If I'm ripping it through grass, if I'm throwing a regular crankbait, it's just fluorocarbon.
Right.
Yeah. There are situations that I would do it if it was pretty thick grass and I was really, really ripping it, whether it be a lipless or like a magwort or something like that. And I know there are people that do it, and but if I'm only occasionally ticking the grass and kind of like hitting the tops, then I'm going to do fluoro. So it's probably a unique situation when I would do it, but I would say 90+% of the time it's going to be fluorocarbon. I would say 5% chance to be braid and 5% be mono if it's like super topped out grass. Right? Like
get to float more.
Need to float more. I might even consider mono if I don't want it to really dig into the grass. So.
Right. Yeah, I know that's a big movement, especially down south in like a Rayburn or Alabama or Florida is throwing a lipless on braid. That's a big move. I think guys do it actually up here too. I could be wrong.
Yeah, I'm gonna be throwing something like this in the grass. If it's a red crankbait in the grass, you cannot go wrong. Just FYI, pro tip: throw red in the grass,
especially early.
Yes,
very early.
There's some cool comments coming.
Andrew, I really like your hat, by the way.
Thanks, man.
I mean, Matt just knocked it out of the marketing part with that deal. I remember when he wore that hat the first time on Kentucky Lake.
I need the Awesome hat.
It was freaking awesome when he come in to weigh in. He had like a 24-pound sack. And people were just like, first they're like, oh, look at this cocky son of a gun. And then for like 2 months, he took everybody's money. And those same people were buying his hat.
That's awesome. It's a great marketing scheme.
It is.
way to sell a brand. I'm going to blast you, take all your money, and then you're going to buy my hat. So I'm going to take even more of your money.
Does anyone know why Tactical Bass uses 7 gear ratios for cranking? I assume that's a time of year and kind of how the bass are situated. Other than that, I haven't paid much attention to their gear ratios for cranking.
I assume he's saying they're using the high speed 7-to-1 is what he's trying to say. Not 7 different gear ratios, I think. There's a lot of people that like 7. That's not uncommon, especially the newer reels don't. You know, back in the day, old men like Baxter and I probably used a lot of 5-to-1s because it made a big difference in how hard it was to turn the reel all day. But now the new reels, you don't feel it. The gearing is so good that like you don't really necessarily wear yourself out with a 7-to-1, you know, as much, I don't think. So, and a lot of times speed kills, right? It's a reaction bait. And sometimes, you know, when you're cranking ledges and stuff like that or burning lipless crankbaits, you just can't get going fast enough with a 5 or a 6. So I think that's why.
Yeah, that's pretty much Matt and Tim's deal. They're looking for a reaction bite. They don't want a bass to sit long enough to get a good look at it. And I'll be honest, as Kentucky Lake's cleared up the last couple years, I myself am starting to throw some stuff on a 7-to-1. It's hard to throw a 10XD on it. I pretty much stick to a 6, but again, I started on 5.3 or 4 8-to-1s from the older Lew's. Now it's 5.4. But I'm pretty much at least always throwing 6.3-to-1 on a crankbait. I've got some 5-to-5 ratio reels, but dude, 7-to-1, 5, 6XD, whatever you want, burning them catches a lot of fish. I mean, you just don't give them time to get a second look. They either react to it or they don't bite it, you know.
Yeah.
And the nice thing too is you can get that reel handle going so fast you can get down quicker too.
You can, a lot of times achieve your maximum depth more consistently and better. And it really depends. Right now, you don't want a 7-to-1 for wiggleworts and rock crawlers. You don't want it for shad wraps. You don't, you know. So really, like that's more summertime cranking, right? Or you know, once the water gets above 55, right? That's when that speed kills. When you're talking about cold water cranking, then you definitely don't want those reels most of the time.
Yeah. I primarily only crank with a like Kevin said 6.3-to-1 to like a 7.1-to-1. I like a 7.1-to-1 or a 7.3-to-1 for liplesses personally.
Yeah, absolutely.
But my thing is
I like cranking lipless with a 7.1 myself almost all during the year.
Yeah.
Mountain Dew.
He's catching up to him. I've had cases where I've lost fish just because they eat it coming to me and I can't catch up with a 5-to-3.
Yeah. Actually, with the lipless, when I'm yo-yoing a lipless, I like to go to an 8-to-1 because sometimes they'll eat it and charge you on that yo-yo, so you can catch them, get up to them a little quicker with the 8-to-1. But if I'm just like pulling it and ripping, I'll go 7-1.
Yeah, and it's like that. That's like kind of similar to what Andy actually helped me with blade bait this year, was not being able to catch up to him. And I was using a 6.3-to-1 with a blade bait and yo-yoing it, obviously ripping it like a blade bait you would. And switched to a 7.1-to-1 because I lost fish because I simply couldn't catch up, especially smallmouth. So that's one thing. But Rich, I want to point out here, you said 100%, and I know your rule.
Oh.
So,
but you didn't put his comment before that up.
What's that? What did you say? Shadow bass.
Pull back 5 comments.
At number 1.
Visor gang, about? Baby. Visor gang.
I used to rock a visor like 6 years ago.
Speaking of which, this would be a killer visor hat, especially with like Matt Robertson's mullet.
Oh man,
it's really not even a mullet, man. He's just got
he's got flow.
He's got rock star hair, man.
Yeah.
My wife, he come over. My wife said, "You know how many women would pay me $150 to make their hair look that blonde?"
That's funny. Let's see what else we got. Oh, Kevin, we actually didn't go over with you. We were talking in the beginning of the show of our 2020 highlights. So like your best days on the water and off the water.
Well, I don't really have many highlights on the water this year. So
getting out with bait.
Filming somebody counts. I've had some really good day filming people. I just didn't do a lot of fishing myself this year, and I did have a pretty good day on Lake X this year. Nothing spectacular, but that's my goal for 2021 is to fish enough where Rich doesn't make fun of me for not fishing.
I feel like now it's such a good joke that even if you fish more than me, it will still say that you don't fish. So
absolutely.
I think your highlight was
we can make fun of
Baitman's debut on the Mark Menendez channel.
And I'm sitting there not even filming, and it's just luckily I had the GoPro wrong to get the fish back.
Steve has made his appearance. Oh, that's too funny.
It's not true.
That's too funny. Well, let's move into one thing I wanted to talk about too, which we were talking with Rich offline here, which is an interesting year because one, obviously COVID year, and there was obviously some supply issues, or maybe companies were holding off until this year when COVID dies down to release certain things, but maybe some baits that were really good that were released in 2020 and baits that might be bad that were released in 2020, which is interesting because I cast virtual. So it's actually kind of almost a struggle to come up with these. But do you guys have any ideas for maybe top baits of 2020, like industry wide? And then maybe something that, kind of sucked.
Yeah.
Like I'll go first. Like the thing that sucked was a spider.
Yeah, I agree. The spider was a gimmick. I didn't buy them. We were looking at a show and they were already in the clearance bin at Taco Warehouse. So that tells you anything.
Mm-hmm.
I think Kevin's looking for his.
Yeah, I had one, but I think this was way before the spider. If it's from Live Target, it's probably a gimmick. I think that's 3 or 4 years ago though. This little crawfish thing.
Right.
Unless it's their original frog they had, everything else is a gimmick.
Yeah, that frog is good. My buddy Brent Anderson says that the gizzard swim bait they make, top hook, he says you can burn as fast as you can, it won't blow out. He said it's one of the few swim baits you can do that with. So
interesting.
I did buy some of those new Live Targets. Their hollow belly frog that's like a horny toad, but it's got the long tails. And I thought, man, this they might do it this year. They might got something that works on the buzzbait. No, it's just way too much.
Interesting comment here from Hunter Nixon that the Jackhammer stealth blade is a dud. What are your guys' thoughts on the whole clear blade on a chatterbait?
Oh, Rich's comment is great. Hey, I'll be honest. I'm going to agree with Hunter there. It really don't make any sound. It's so tight when it swims. To be honest, if you're going to do all that, just swim a jig.
I've heard several people that have used them echo the same thing. I never bought any. I didn't try them, but I've heard people that I respect their opinion say the same thing.
So you don't respect mine, huh, Rich?
No, I'm agreeing. I'm just saying more people that I also agree with or I respect has said the same thing. I will say, who's the guy? Justin Kerr said he was catching them on Pickwick on it, but he's also sponsored by Evergreen, so take that with a grain of salt.
Yeah, I actually do have a friend who likes them, who lives in Alabama, but he said it's very situational based.
Right. I'm not saying it's a bad bait, but I'm not going to pick it up before a regular jackhammer or Rich's custom he likes. I feel like, I don't know. It just kind of defeats the purpose of the jackhammer to deal with it hitting the head and making the noise. That's one big pros of the bait.
I think for the money you're charging, if it's that tough, subtle presentation you need, you're better off throwing a swim jig with a paddle tail on it.
Right.
Yeah, that's fair.
And spend $4 instead of whatever those are. 18.
Yeah, Shadow Baston says, think of it as a finesse jackhammer where the blade still displaces water and the fish would still feel it. And I've never used it, so I can't speak on that one just because I've never used a stealth blade. But in my mind, I think about up here in the north, ice out, clear water. where that invisible blade with a slight thump could work over maybe just a regular jackhammer. But again, like I said, I've never used it, so I can't give valid feedback on that.
Yeah, but would it be any better than a swim jig or a scrounger head at that point?
Fair.
That's the question. I haven't, and like I said, I haven't used it, but that's where I'm at right now.
Yeah, and there's already some JDM bladed jigs out there that were using a clear head. I believe Depps made one, or OSP and Jackal both made one with a clear blade. So,
Interesting.
You gotta go to Japan to get them.
Yeah, Lucas, I don't think there's anything worse than lunker hunt, personally. I don't know, but you're talking to the bait junkies here.
I will say, I do like some of those lunker hunt like topwaters that are weedless, that are like little soft, like plopper style baits, and I give them to my godson so that he can go out and see the bait, and they're like good baits for kids to like cast and be engaged with. They'll actually get bit or hook fish, but they serve a good purpose for young anglers to get them engaged in something cool they can cast easy and see it rippling on the water. So
believe it or not, the lunker hunt fetch swim bait is good. It's basically a rip off of the 316 minnow that was really popular. But the fetch, if you can find them still, they're a good swim bait.
Interesting. See, Zach Hall's in the house. What up, Zach?
Skint back with Zach. What a name.
Yeah.
He's a wild one.
Zach's a good dude. He's people. But Gary said, bought one of the 1 ounce chatterbaits and nothing. Gary, I am a big fan personally of the 1 ounce chatterbaits, just because all I'm going to leave it with is deep grass. And that's what I'm going to leave it at.
And when you're throwing it, are you slow rolling it, or are you more like lifting and?
Well, okay, I take it back. More like a mix. I will play around with slow rolling, trying to hit that top of the grass. I'm talking like 20 foot, 25. As deep as the grass will grow, at least up here. But yeah, definitely trying to sometimes letting it fall into the grass and ripping it as hard as I can to get that back up. But it definitely has its place, at least for me. I'm sure there's other people that feel the same way. But
yeah, I think the heavy chatterbaits, 3/4, 1 ounce, can be a really good tool in the right situation.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's something I actually want to do more of in 2021 is tap into that bite, I think. So
yeah, I'm trying to remember his name. There's a guy down the TVA that uses them on ledges, like an ounce and a quarter. Miles Berghoff uses them. I know he made a video about that, actually. I think he uses like 1.5 ounces with a razor blade. Was it razor blade or razor shads? What is it, Z-Man?
Yeah, razor shads.
Razor shads, yeah.
Yeah, I know Clark Ream really loves those 3/4 ounce and up for certain situations in Texas, hitting deep humps and brush and stuff.
Right.
So the deal here is I watched a guy catch like 26 pounds, like 100 yards from me several years ago. And I thought he was just throwing swim bait, but he was throwing that big giant Picasso shock blade. It's like 2 ounces and had like a 7-inch swim bait on it. And he even had skirt and all that. The deal on those heavy chatterbaits, you got to get one that don't. If you're going to fish offshore with it, you do not want it rising. I've got some 1.25 ounce jackhammers, and when you put Jerky J on the back or that Hog Farmer Spunk Shad, and you got to use a 6-to-1 reel, it won't rise like a lot of other heavy bladed jigs. They tend to rise. That jackhammer, you got to count it down, obviously. It'll run down there on the bottom. And actually, a tip, if you're going to do that, use light line instead of using 17-20. If you can get away with 12, 14-pound fluorocarbon, it'll keep it down there a little bit better.
That's a good idea. Tom Mix said, if I want a finesse chatterbait, I'm going to throw a 1/4 ounce mini chatterbait, which is a good deal. I think, Rich, I've seen you throw that for crappie, right?
Yeah, crappie.
Have you guys thrown got your hands on the willow blades yet? You seen those from?
I saw some at where was that one? I think I saw them at Dick's Sporting Goods. I actually really like the cross eyes chatterbait. By the way, I saw that. I meant to buy some. The only color they had was fire crawl.
It definitely intrigues me because I want to know what that thump's like. I haven't seen any videos on it being used yet either. So Andrew Hayes. When you use the new Z-Man Strike Micro chatterbait heads with no skirt. You guys? I haven't.
Nope.
I'm like a 100% ZMan evergreen jackhammer, but I do have some of the Mega Bass ones too, the Robin blades, which are pretty sweet as well.
I would like to throw that.
Yeah.
Tell me your thoughts on that Robin blade.
It's not too bad. It's a little more subtle. It rises a little faster than I'd like it to. I'm still trying to play around with it, but I've lost 2 of the 3 I had to pike and tiger muskie. So
Fun stuff.
yeah. Oh, I also have the what was the Jackal one that was big there for a little bit with the
Brake blade?
Yeah, the brake blade. I wasn't too keen on that either.
Yeah, I had one. I wouldn't say it was my favorite.
The hook was a little flimsy, sticky sharp, but one of the bigger bass I hooked on it. I felt like the hook flexed on it when he came off, and sure enough, it definitely flexed out a little bit when I hammered into him.
This is fixing to turn into a bladed jig stream really quick.
They're so versatile.
Oh, we got a question from Logan here on scrounger heads. You guys got any good input? Because I haven't thrown it a lot. It's something that's I need to learn a little bit more about.
Short answer, yes.
Andy, have you implemented a scrounger head at all in your game?
Very situationally for smallmouth, I have.
Okay.
Yeah,
It's something I haven't implemented at all.
cold water river smallies late in the year. I've dabbled with them, but not a lot.
Try it in the spring, Rich, if you can.
It's very underrated technique in the spring, and it catches great big ones here.
Oh yeah. So let's talk about that for a second. Then, what's your setup? Like, what rod are you throwing it on? Line, gear ratio?
I'm throwing it basically on the. Oh, go ahead, Kevin. You can go first.
No, I don't want anybody knowing, so you go ahead.
Fair enough. So I'll throw it on like a 7 to 7.5, well 7.3 medium heavy, something a little beefier than what I would throw a normal paddle tail swim bait on, and I'll usually upsize the line by like 2 to 4 pounds as well. And that's about as much information I'm going to give on it. So.
Yeah, with baits like that, I mean, something that not many people throw, you're probably not going to find a lot of info on it because it works. We'll probably leave it at that before I guess
all you need to do, Logan, is go buy a bunch of these. That's a Castaic Jerky J, and then watch Jason Lambert on the FLW and mimic his retrieve. That's the most you're going to get out of me tonight.
Is that the Kentucky Lake tournament with Randy Haynes you're talking about?
Oh yeah, when he just
he won 2 of them in a row.
That's a great. If you need to know how to throw it, just
You will send the competition to the damn house with this bait.
Heck yeah. Let's see. Okay, so one of the Instagram questions I got, which was kind of interesting, because I want to hear your guys' input, because I think I know what variables are at play, but I'm curious what you guys think as well. Someone asked, what does it take to have a lake that produces quality bass? And I thought that was actually kind of an interesting question. So obviously, forage is obviously essential and cover. But what other factors do you guys think are important?
I mean, fertile, right? Like in Minnesota, the lakes that are fertile, seem to produce the biggest bass. A lot of times those lakes got a little color to them. They have vegetation, they've got bait. I know like some of my buddies that really like to pursue big bass up here, they like to see golden shiners on the menu, like in the netting and the DNR reports, and juvenile carp and bullheads. So like those seem to do a lot up here in growing the biggest bass. So it depends. Are you looking for like lakes that produce freak show bass for where you live, or are you just looking for lakes that have good numbers of quality bass? Like in Minnesota, there's certain lakes that have a lot of numbers of like 2.5 to 4 pounders. Those aren't the same lakes that probably have the best chance of catching a 5.5 to 6.5 pounder. So that's going to vary a little bit based on the country. But I think you can transfer some of that to other parts of the country as well.
Right.
I kind of agree with Rich, and I think it goes across the board that you got to have fertile water and you got to have the right bait or food source. Those vary. Those guys down in Texas that started the Tecumseh Seed Company that own Camelot Bell, they've got it down to science on the food to grow these big bass. But you also have to have good genetics too. People always say, "Well, I put a bunch of bass in the lake in my pond. I didn't grow no big ones." So, well, if you don't put 6 and 7 pounders in there in the infancy, all those genetics of 2 and 3 pounders that may have been 4 or 5 years old are spread through a pond. It's like people grow deer for a living. It's food, it's cover, it's genetics, it's a lot of things.
I would say the other thing you need is staggered year classes.
Right.
You can't have all the fish the same size. You can't have like one bumper crop. They stunt the fishery, right? You need some old fish. You need some young fish. You need, so like in some cases you need lakes that don't have a ton of fish, right? If it has too many fish, you're going to end up with a bunch of small fish. So then in that case, you need to do some selective harvest, whether that's a pond or a local lake or whatever. Like the bigger lakes seem to kind of balance themselves out, but the smaller ones can get a little funky, and you may need to get you and your buddies to eat some bass that are 14 inches and less and weed them out so that the bigger ones can grow. It's really easy to manage that on a pond level as well. So that's any body of water only has so much biomass, right? It can only hold so much living species. So if it gets overrun with a bunch of juvenile pike or crappie, there's a lot of things that can affect bass, right? Spotted bass can affect how largemouth grow and things like that. So there's a lot of factors that go into it.
Definitely.
Stripers, right?
Stripers and crappie, as far as here, it's like a no-no in a waterway. I mean, obviously, a lake, a giant reservoir like Kentucky Barker Lake's different, but if you just got, 10, 12 acre pond, crappie, stripers, which I don't know anyone put stripers in a pond, but crappie, they'll eat up the food source.
So that's actually an interesting topic. I know on our Finger Lakes here in New York, if you have a over large population of bluegill, so not a bunch of bluegill, but big ones, the bass tend to run smaller. But if you have a stunted bluegill population, which a couple of our Finger Lakes do, so they average like 4 to 6 inches, you get bigger largemouth.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting.
Although I think to a certain degree, at least in Minnesota, I've heard a lot of people say that the ones with the truly big bluegills are where you find some of the truly big bass. You may not catch a ton of them, but that's a lot of our trophy lakes. Like they'll have not a lot of pike, but they'll be big ones. They won't have a lot of anything, but the ones that are there will be exceptional.
Right. That makes sense. For something that can eat those, exceptionally big bluegill, have to be giants, and that's probably where you're going to find, you're getting up there toward the state record type caliber fish. If you're going to find, above average fish, that makes sense. I think at least for up north here too, I think a perch population plays a big factor, not only in just a largemouth but smallmouth too.
For sure.
Non-goby lakes. I think that's huge.
Or goby lakes. Some goby lakes even have an abundance of just perch eaters. So,
right. Yeah. Now you'll see places will have 2 classes of fish that are sucked to the bottom eating gobies, and fish that are suspended and chasing perch or gizzards or alewives, whatever have you.
I think we got a little bit tangented on our baits for 2020, and you can probably circle back on that.
I think Simon asked us to get back to the best and worst lures of 2020.
I think a couple things that I'm starting to see, not necessarily a new bait for 2020, but I feel like jerk baits are really emerging as a year-round.
Getting cool to jerk it, bud.
Like they were starting in like high-level tournaments, jerk baits are a player in the top 10 and winning tournaments year-round now. So that's something that I think is an interesting trend observation. Polinick was a big part of his win on Sandy Cooper. Obviously, Patrick Walters in combination with Live Scope dominated fork. we've seen in the past couple of years where Kelly J and Hank Cherry in the summer have done well, top 10 in tournaments on like Gunnersville. So I think that's something that the rest of us could take into is, using jerkbaits more than just pre-spawn.
Yeah, I'll agree with Rich. It's really it's been cool to see, and it's actually educated a lot of people. I know some guys have said, "Man, I wish some of the bass wasn't live now because a lot of secrets are going out." But the jerkbait in the summer, or even just late pre-spawn, where guys here water hits 60, they're like, "Oh, it's rattle trap time. No more jerkbait." And these guys are throwing at 75-degree water temperature, late spawn, catching a lot of fish, and even into the summer. I've kind of known it was a pretty good schooling bass technique, but I think what you're finding, especially now with live scope, jerkbait's a great way to find bass.
Yeah. Is that a box of Smithwicks back there to your left shoulder?
Yeah, I got a bunch of jerkbaits right here, but
we're just talking about jerkbaits. It looks like above what you just touched, right there. No, below that, right there. Is that a box of Smithwicks right there?
That is yes, that's all my rogues. That one's a Excalibur rogue, and then yeah. Dude, I'm telling you, I was at Mark Menendez's house. Of course, he was sponsored by Smithwick Practical back in the day. If you want some old rogues, he's got them. He's trying to sell them. I bet he's got 500.
Those old rogues are way better than the new ones too. They just don't cast worth a crap.
These are all the old ones. I got some pictures. I'll send you offline on the stream. We may give Smallmouth Crush a run on the live auction because all my stuff would be like the good stuff. No, I'm just kidding. Hopefully Travis is selling enough to pay for his open feast tonight.
Sorry, Rich, go ahead.
I was gonna say another bait that I'm hearing a lot that I haven't personally used, but in the north, the Megabass Dark Sleeper is a lot of bait people are doing really well on that aren't necessarily talking about them a lot, like in the so I think that's for both smallies and largies. And I don't know, are they catching them down south, or you hear much down by you?
I actually seen a guy sent me a photo a couple years ago when they first come out on Percy Priest of an 8.6. He caught on a dark sleeper. Like it was down in his throat, and he was messaging me, dude, I can't, my PB, and he ordered it from me online. So obviously they'll buy it, but I think this guy here, it's not dark sleepers really taking off. It's the ball head with the finesse swim bait, like a Kayak.
Right.
The guys that don't want to chunk an A-rig around in the winter, like me, I'll go to throwing something like this. I may not catch as many giants, but I get a lot of bites. And to be honest, after a couple months, when you get to about mid-January, they've seen an A-rig so much here, they just you got to finesse them a little bit. But the Brian Thrift rig, as I say, man, that thing, it catches.
Yeah. I think this personally, and I could be wrong here, that the dark sleeper, I think, is very effective, but I think when it comes to hookup ratio, your rod is very important. And I think that's something that Benjamin Nowak from Smallmouth Experience covered in your stream with him, Rich. So I think that came up in the conversation was dark sleepers and talking about how hookup ratio is very important on depending on what rod you're throwing. I think, Andy, you experienced that because I think we were out. I mean, granted, it was during spawn, but still, like, you had a hookup ratio difficulty with those fish.
Yeah, I mean, it's not something I've really played around with, so I was like, oh, I'll catch them on the bed with it, and I'll tell you what, smallmouth do not like them on a bed, but they spit them out quicker than you can really hammer them, so I really had to figure out what rod. I think I was using just slightly too soft of a rod for it to penetrate through, like, the fin on the top. I actually debated cutting the fin down slightly, like the dorsal fin, I guess it would be called, on top of it. I thought about trimming it a little bit to see if it would help my hookup ratio, because of what I would find when the smallmouth would eat it and swim off the bed, it would fold the plastic over the hook when I would set.
Right. I think that's what Ben mentioned too, was, if you could get rid of that fin on top, then obviously it'd be much more effective.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I make scissors every day.
Yeah.
Cut it off, you meant?
Yeah, I think Andrew made a good point. So I've thrown it a couple times, and the way it's kind of a different swim bait. It's really, to me, I work it like a jig, almost like dragging a football jig, and stroke it here and let it fall down. I lost a couple fish, and I couldn't tell you how big they were because I got enough to get 4 or 5 handle turns and then come off. So I just took the scissors in the boat and cut that thing off and had that open. I mean, it didn't take long. Next time I got a bite, I got it in. So obviously, I'm not throwing it around brush. It's kind of an open water deal for me, not around grass either. So if I was going to fish open water, no grass and all that, I'm definitely snipping that fin and trying to get all the advantage I can.
Right. Definitely. Let's see, Scott asked, have you guys tried a ball head with a sickle style in it? When you hook them, they don't get off, apparently.
Yeah, I don't lose a lot of fish on single swim bait.
Yeah.
Kitech setups either way. So
I think the only time I've lost fish on a single swim bait is I just didn't have the right gear ratio. I think that's about it. Just couldn't catch up to him, frankly.
I think more important is the hook, the gauge. I like a light wire. I've seen a lot of people that they'll buy these real thick ones. I don't like that. So I've already seen the question, the comments. The one I got here is the one I throw quite a bit. Subtle plug. This is this STC Hellfire swim bait head. It's got a real light wire owner hook in it. It's got a screw lock, and this thing is super, super sharp. 3/8 1/4 ounce. And then the other one I like is just an owner ball head. And you can get those on Tackle Warehouse. They're cheap.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's one thing that's overlooked, or some people kind of don't take into account. Because I've seen like posts around social media too of people with, whether it's a single swim bait or a Ned rig, something that always has, a normal exposed hook, is there's not much gap in between that hook point and the plastic, so you have no room to really penetrate that fish.
Right.
So people that have it, like if your hook is so close to that plastic, I mean, all you're doing is skin hooking them and hoping that tension is going to get them back to the boat. So I think that's one thing that people need to take into account more, especially how you rig your plastic too. If you rig it too far, like if you take your swim bait and you're rigging that thing too low below the belly, I mean, you're not going to have much gap in between your hook and your plastic.
Right.
Is that a Kitech?
No, that's just a Bass Tech agitator head. It's kind of a cross between a little football and a ball head. That's the one I use a lot.
I didn't know you made those, Rich.
Little smaller profile.
Nice.
The cool thing about that little football head hybrid type deal probably gives it a little more of a wobble too as you reel it in.
Mm-hmm. And if you're going to use it as a shaky head, I use this thing for a ton of things. I use it for stupid tubes. I use it for shaky heads. I use it for swim baits, Mena scrubs. Like, it just gives it a little different look and a little different roll.
Right.
Heck yeah.
Now, Rich, real quick, your stupid tube, because you've made some really good videos on this. What size hook are you using for those stupid tubes?
There's 2 different hooks that I like, depending on the tube and the cover and the line. And so if I'm around a little bit heavier cover, bigger rod, I think it's V&M makes a tube hook that's got a super extra wide gap on it. If you can see that.
That's crazy.
So like it's an EWG tube hook that I really like for like I'm going to use this with more like a little thicker, like a 3.5 inch tube with like 16, 17 pound line. A lot of times I'll be throwing this into brush, docks, things like that. And then I use that agitator head, which is just a shaky head that has a decent gap and a little bit lighter wire. And I'll use that on a slightly smaller, thinner wire tube. This one's probably a little thick, but and then the head, right, with that little, this is maybe not a little hard to see, but you get a little bit of that goby kind of flare out on that head, which I think also has to come through the rocks a little bit when I'm fishing more open water rocks and things like that. That
first hook you showed, that has to make that tube roll side to side a bunch with how thick of a gap there is with that hook. That's got to make that thing roll side to side a bunch. That's probably nice.
A little bit more of a keel to it for sure. I mean, so I use a couple hooks that are a little bit unconventional to the, the secret lures and some of those Zona bite me hooks. I haven't had particularly great luck with those hookup wise, so these are the ones that I use.
Yeah, I've experimented a little bit, and Andy, we've talked about this over the summer as well. Is like getting the bite me jig heads, and pretty much what I used before getting into the bite me heads, which a bite me head I've noticed especially with the tube, is that it's just a straight reel and lean. Where I've used Venom lures, they have tube jig heads that are kind of more of a an EWG style, where I actually just bumped up to 15, 17 pound fluoro and just fished them like a football jig, and like laid the hook into them like a football jig because I had that thicker wire hook to them, and did okay. I lost a bunch of fish still, but I still feel like that bite me head's better just because it's a lighter wire reel into. But then again, I don't fish tubes all that much, but it's not something different. Stupid tube. I've never fished a stupid tube before.
I got the old stupid tube head there, Rich.
Yep, that'd be a good one for sure.
Believe it or not, I know some guys that spend a lot of money on Kentucky Lake and Pickwick on stupid tube, especially as co-anglers.
It's just something different that a lot of people don't throw.
Right.
And it does have, it's different than a Texas rig tube. It's different than an exposed. It falls different. It drags different. It gives them a different look. So even on a place like the Great Lakes, if there's a tube bite and you're in a tournament, I'd mix it in because it's a different look. And it could get you some different bites.
Right. Do you guys know who makes a good sickle hook?
Crappie companies.
I mean, it depends on what kind of sickle. Are we talking about like a?
I have no idea.
Like a jig head sickle hook? Are we talking about like a Texas? Like a worm hook? I mean, I guess I need a little more information.
Right.
Like a tube. I mean, I think V&M or Venom makes a sickle hook tube jig hook. I think.
Well, Gary, if that answers your question, great. If not, give us some more details and we'll put it up there for you.
Backlash. I haven't used the Phantom tube hooks from Owner, but those do look interesting to me, and they could be an option. They're very similar to what a stupid tube rig.
Yeah, Mark Louderbaugh says VMC. So I'm assuming that's where you can get it from. But this one's for you, Kevin. Simon mentioned about the new 6 Sense plastics, and they made a new swim bait this year, didn't they?
They made two. This is the new one. This is the whale.
It's like a mag drop.
Kind of hard showing them on camera because, of course, I just bought white, and white and webcams don't work out. But this one just come out. It's kind of like a cross between a skinny dipper and a mag draft.
I like it though.
It's a lot softer than that Divine. That's a really good one. I think you could rig it completely weedless, no weight. Fish it kind of like a Big Easy too. Obviously, obviously most people know I'm tied in with 6 Sense or whatnot. Not trying to sound like a bait pimp for them or anything, but they got some really good stuff. I think my favorite thing they've come out with in a while, to be honest, and I know Rich liked these, was their new soft jerk bait. And that's they call it the Flush. And that's a nice gill color. If you guys got some of them perches up north, that would be
almost has a good golden shiner profile.
Yeah. So, and to be honest, soft jerkbait fishing is really took off the last couple of years. You got seen all the pros doing the donkey rigging thing, and obviously with YouTube, it's super versatile. You can fish it in a pond. They're great on rivers, lakes, all kinds of stuff. Dude, I'm a huge fluke guy. I love throwing a fluke, so it's really cool for that to come out. So,
Zach asked if you did a line through on that swim bait. The
I
whale.
have not. I haven't even went fishing with it yet, to be honest with you.
That fluke looks good for a scrounger head.
Yes, it does.
I'm excited to try that Flush on a bladed jig next spring.
That's exactly where my mind went. I'm a big fluke guy on the back of a bladed jig, so
it almost.
A lot of people, I think, I see this on the social medias. As soon as someone asks what's a great trailer, 90% of the guys that say, "Oh, you want this that it has more action than anything," and all that. Me personally, I never do any good with trailers that are like big craws or just crazy amounts of action. I do really good with like a Zacco is probably my favorite. A Fluke I've done really well with, and like that Hog Farmer Spunk Shad. It's just like a kayak with a straight tail and just kind of does this.
Mhm.
I just think it makes it look so much more natural. And sure, you can have stuff that's got crazy flapping and action. You're going to catch fish, but to me, I catch a lot bigger fish on that natural presentation behind it.
Right. Yeah, we've mentioned this on our podcast with Panger and Hallman. Obviously, because Big Bites, they're with Big Bites, so it came up. But that Kamikaze swim on, I've become a big fan of for trailers. It is annoying though, because that tail has the holes, like that creates the quote unquote bubble trail, and your hook gets stuck in them. Especially if you're skipping, that's probably the only downfall. But other than that, the action on that's freaking nuts.
So there is one paddle tail that I like, and it's this Arsenal Tactical Minnow. But you can see it's a tiny little paddle tail. It's I mean, it almost doesn't have. I mean, it's so flimsy and so small that like that is the one paddle tail, and I really like this as a bladed jig trailer as well. So if you're a person that has always been a paddle tail person and you want to move to something more subtle, look at the Arsenal Tactical Minnow, and then you'll see it has a little bit of a kick, but it won't fight your chatterbait, and you'll still get that blowout and that erratic action you want. So
on back with chatterbait, but it's got that small little boot tail. It's not big, so it actually swings a lot. It's not bad at all. And a lot of people now are like, well, Tactical Bassin said don't use a kayak on the back. What they said is you can still catch fish on it, but we prefer to do it like this so you'll get different action. So
they say
if that's something that works. Someone said put a trick worm on the back, dude. If that works for you and it catches fish,
hey,
I'm not going to tell you to change at all. That's the beauty of baits and fishing is go out there and play around.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Backlash. It's funny you said that. I'll take a trick worm and cut it down, and I'll put it on as a trailer for a spinnerbait, like different drop shot baits. So something that doesn't get in the way, so I can still put a trailer hook, but something that's still for those fish to key in on, like a dream shot too from Strike King. Something simple and dumb can just key them in and get you a better hookup ratio. I mean, I'm talking about a swim bait that I liked that, and you might know what I'm talking about here, Kevin, too, is net baits. What is it, the BK swim bait? I don't know if any of you guys have used those before, but I like
yes.
Yes. I was a big fan of that.
That was the original when the Alabama rig first came out. I'm talking, Paul Ice one, and then Moorhead went on Kentucky Lake. I'm pretty sure Moorhead was throwing the BK swim bait on the A-Rig when he won that Everstart Championship. And, man, people bought the snot out of them things. And they were pretty good A-Rig. And now guys are throwing them on chatterbaits. I'll tell you a good one. Now, I had to learn because people were buying it. It was in Discount Bin, a place I worked, and all of a sudden everyone's buying them. I'm like, man, I can't believe we still got these. It was that Havoc Devil Spear. They were putting that on the back of a bladed jig, and now you've got that new Jordan Lee thing or whatnot. It's basically the Devil Spear cut in half. But I threw one on the back of a regular chatterbait, and I was like, dang, man, this is good. It's basically the same concept of putting a creature bait and rigging it, horizontal or like a Rage Menace. So,
got a question for you here, Kev, and it's does Menendez have any of them 3.5-inch floating rogues?
Yes.
There's your answer.
If there's a rogue, he has it. I promise you.
Oh man, Gary mentioned the old Sluggo. That's how I grew up, was the Sluggo.
Dude,
My dad and I would go in the old Bayliner to actually Andy will be proud of this. The lake I grew up fishing until I learned what real lakes were about was Honeoye, which is like this tiny dink lake, and all the way through were Sluggos. Every condition you can think of all day long.
I've got 3 6-pounders out of that tiny dink lake. So
dude.
Yeah, well, you can go catch 3 6-pounders out of any other lake around it in a day.
Doesn't matter.
Oh, so Clay Brizendine, I'm sorry if I butchered that, dude, but he brought up G-Crack. Are you guys, have you tried that G-Crack bait? I can't even think of the name, but the little fat, ribbed.
You want me to get it out?
Thing?
It's the Bellows Gill, or the Belos. Or
Is that what it is?
Gill.
Because I think Alton Jones Jr. just signed with them, actually. But I've seen that around, and it looks interesting. It just looks like a lot of plastic for a fish to eat.
It's there's not a lot. It's a lot of rib, not a lot of body. So there's it's a big profile, but there's not a lot of plastic.
Yeah, they've got a bunch of new sizes. They got a new real small size. It should be like a 2.2.
Yeah,
so
you guys
here's the Bellows gill. These things, they smell like cereal. It's a weird smell to them, but
What kind of cereal?
I know you think it's a big plastic, but really because it's ribbed and they fold really easy. But dude, Matt Robertson told me you'd be surprised how many guys are flipping that right now. He said it's like the secret deal, or was until BTC put it up on Smallmouth Crush or whatever.
I could see it actually being a really good chatterbait trailer.
Yeah, it could.
Vertical or a horizontal?
Like that right there.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And with those ribs, you can cut around it and give it a mohawk and all kinds of stuff and do what you want to. But they're a really cool company. They reached out to me about 3 or 4 years ago when I was first kind of streaming with the cell phone in my kitchen sink. And they sent me a huge package of stuff. And this is one bait they sent me that I've actually had used for a while and I ran out. And I'm glad they're selling them in the United States. Is the Bellows stick. This was like one of the first worms I was Nico rigging out deep on ledges.
Now that thing looks
really good bait. It's really good bait.
I have a couple packs, but I didn't throw them yet. I had a guy reach out to me and like, dude, if you need a big bite, like this is the worm to throw. Like,
they're really soft though. I went through 2 packs in like 3 trips,
which is like $30.
Now, do you O-ring it or no O-ring?
I O-ringed it, but they're still soft.
I feel
it's
like
kind of hard with the O-ring because of the ribs on there.
Yeah. They do have a small Bellows gill, which I think you guys are going to look at drop shotting or Ned rigging for smallies. Like a little just.
Oh, tiny, like.
Yeah. They have them at Tackle Warehouse. You can go look at them. They might even have them at Omnia. I'm not sure.
Huh.
That company, I'll call it right now, they're primed and poised for a big 2021.
There's some cool swim baits coming out.
What was that stick bait you were talking that you just showed us, Kevin? What was that called again?
This is called the Bellows stick, and this is
Bellows
the 5.8.
Okay.
Yeah, they make. I'll show it again here. They make several different sizes. The problem is I can't read the writing other than their name. I forgot what color this is, but it's kind of sexy. It's kind of like a.
Is that PB&J type?
Yeah, but I forgot the name.
The lighting.
Yeah, I got to work on it. It's kind of like a blue top, and then it's kind of like a light green.
I found it. I'll screenshot it and send it to you.
Like an Okie craw type of deal?
Yeah, it's kind of like this one's kind of like their version of a Bama bug, maybe.
Okay. All right. I feel like that would be really good, and I know we're giving out a bunch of stuff here, but like I hope that would be really good on like a 5/0 swing head.
Yeah, I mean that's one thing about their baits. They're pretty versatile. Like it's not like you just bought that and you can only flip it. You can do all kinds of stuff with it.
Right.
I like
swing heads much?
I like this trend in the industry where manufacturers are making baits where you can do 10 different things with it.
Okay. You guys throw swing heads at all? I'm a big fan of the swing heads.
I don't like to talk about it.
Okay, fair enough.
I'm with Andrew.
Andy's gonna kill me.
It's another very situational thing for me that I don't really. I always have a box of them, but it's very, very specific when I'll tie it on.
Zach tells us, "Be right back." Headed to Tackle Warehouse. Should be getting paid right now. Wobbleheads. Yeah, we had brain worms in the 80s. The 10,000 fish Yoda worm is kind of. I've seen 10,000 fish has made some interesting stuff. That Yoda worm I've seen on a chatterbait a bunch. That looks pretty good. That's some good action underwater. Trying to think what else. What else has been in the talks this year, or has been prevalent? Maybe obviously like I brought this up with Kevin and Rich too of baits that have been prevalent at the pro level, and we kind of were like chatterbait, Senko. It's been prevalent every single tournament. But is there anything else you guys can think of?
It seems like slowly, year after year, the spinnerbait is kind of making a comeback.
It is.
Like on Eufaula, you saw him catch some on a big double-willowed spinnerbait.
Jacob Wheeler.
Mm-hmm.
True.
One major league fishing event.
So that's kind of cool to see.
Yeah. I've caught three of my 5 biggest largemouth this year on a spinnerbait. And I hated throwing a spinnerbait up here in New York because everyone and their mother threw a spinnerbait. So I had like this connotation with it that, you know, everyone throws it. I'm not going to throw it. But one day saw bait going crazy up shallow and females were making their push to spawn and slapped it on there. And 2 hours later and 25 pounds, it's like, okay, I am now a believer again in the spinnerbait.
You'll never believe what spinnerbait he was using, though.
Don't make fun of me for it.
No, the ZMan.
It looks really good, man. It looks good, but me and that thing don't gel.
It's the remnants of it. Maybe 25 fish later. Maybe.
That's not bad. You know, if you get a war eagle that catches fish, you can only get like 4 fish out of it before it's total.
That's true. Or when you're fishing around docks and if you hit something with it, the blade spins and bends in like 8 different directions.
Yeah, I would say someone mentioned it. The spinnerbait like this deal, it's got the old kicker blade on it. In the last year or two, man, in the springtime, that's really taken off. Even whether it was at Gunnersville or seeing a little bit of that in the Classic, but like Major League Fishing and Eufaula, a lot of those guys were throwing that kicker blade on that. It's kind of cool to do it now.
Anywhere where you get dark water, yeah.
What are those swim baits to your right, Kevin? But next to the whales.
Citizens,
over your right shoulder.
Working class.
Yeah, these are the working class Zero Citizens. This is the 6-inch. They make a 7. I gifted a pack of 7 inches to a very inconsiderate Secret Santa recipient. These are really good baits. Mike Gilbert knows what he's doing. They are hard to find and expensive. And that one behind it's the Battle Shad. Oh, look at Rich and his Dream Smashers.
Oh, dude, I saw those. Those look good.
Is that the one you just posted, Rich, on Instagram?
Yeah. So these guys are kind of a small Minnesota company. You know, they're really have only been. I mean, they've had baits for several years, but they've really only started making them to the point where they could sell them in the last year or so. It's a guy that used to be in my bass club. It's kind of it's a really wide head. Like it's got a flat nose. It pushes. It's got a unique head shape to it. Actually, there is some similarities between the working class baits in these, but I would say these are even a little more pronounced. Similar style, you fish them on a beast. It's got a big hook slot, so the beast hook fits in there and slides up in there. But yeah, there's a lot of guys. He like every Wednesday night he drops a bunch of baits and they disappear in a couple hours. Like so, there's clearly guys are buying them and catching them on them.
Interesting.
I've actually
thrown like that HUD style no action tail on it too.
And
so
it's got a real
a
fat wedge to it. I think he uses I think it's either the 8-aught or 10-aught beast in these. I'm not sure. I don't remember. And he also throws them a lot with the flashy swimmer beast as well.
He used to make them pre-rigged, didn't he? Like an Osprey top hook.
Yep. They have both. Yep. They have. This is the weedless, and he also has a top hook.
So I've done the top hook one here on Kentucky Lake when I guess that was, probably in 2017. A friend of mine brought some down and gave me one. Dude, I smashed with it. And it's a good swim bait.
He's got he injects and his own harness jig hook harness in that internal weight one. That's a really cool, complicated design, and spent a lot of time coming up with the right resin. So like there's a weight on a hook, and then he shoots an injection molds it and encases it in plastic that won't interact with the plastic. So like you mentioned the Ospreys, the big people that complain about the old Ospreys and Optimums is that they would interact with the plastic and turn everything white and rot away. And
I've got like 3 of them doing it up there.
Yeah.
Interesting question. What was your number one bought bait from Tackle Warehouse this year? And it's no secret for me, and I'll go first, and it was flatworms. I'm sure Andy's is probably the same.
No, I don't think so, actually.
Really?
I think I bought more Kitex, like fast swing impacts, than flatworms.
Fair enough.
Just because going into the year, I probably had like 50 bags. So, and then by the time I needed to restock, everyone was out. So I had to wait a very long time to get some.
I think we have a group chat of a few of us, Andy, that is lets everybody know when there's flatworms available.
There's websites we check daily.
Rich, Kev, what about you guys?
Believe it or not, is a Robo Ned. They made a bold bluegill color in that Robo Ned, and I was throwing it on a green pumpkin finesse jig early spring, and I went through a bunch of them. Like that was like my trailers, little 5/16 dirty jigs, Luke Lawson jig. I was putting that Robo Ned on the back, and it has just a little bit of chartreuse tail. And man, this spring you go down a little gravel bank, it's got some wood on it or anything, and dude, you get a bite all the time. Now you're catching a lot of them that are like this big, which was good, but it caught several good fish on it, and I couldn't find them anywhere. So I bought like 3 or 4 bags from TW, and I only got 1 bag left. That's pretty cool little finesse jig trick, putting a Ned worm on the back of it.
Mm-hmm.
Probably D-bombs, probably what I bought the most of this year.
Should have known.
Something I just started flipping more this year. I don't know. Either that or I don't know. I don't know. I have a lot of tackle. I don't buy as much as some people think I do.
Zev Matthews asked your favorite Ned head. The ones I've been using for the past year and a half are the Bass Techs, actually. Rich's Ned heads. Andy's been using them too.
I've used them. I have a very good friend who pours me specific Ned heads with owner hooks. So, and that's just money.
I like the owner blockhead.
It's a good choice too.
Which one?
What one is that, Ken?
I like the owner blockhead. Now they got a blockhead EWG that's really nice too. But I'm a big fan of owner worm hooks. So if I was going to stray off that, I'd probably get whatever Andy's using. That sounds lovely.
I'll send you a picture later. It's
dig it.
They don't come off. In fact, I actually have a couple of friends that buy them from my buddy that fish the tour. So,
all right. This Tim Maynard says the Missile Baits quiver worm is awesome on a Nico rig. I caught my first fish on a Nico rig this year. I don't really throw them that much.
That's a really good bait, by the way.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, Missile Baits has really taken off the last year and a half. They've got my buddy Byron Childers over there, national sales manager. He's really helped out over there. But man, they've got good Ned bait. They've got obviously good flipping bait. They got that's kind of a hybrid wacky Nico bait. For me, Nico rigging is the way to go. Got a lot of good stuff, man. John Cruz is good at marketing too. So it's crazy how big Missiles got. You talk about 6 cents, but Missiles really just strictly soft plastics and a few jigs, and they've gotten really big the last few years.
Yeah. D-Bomb's definitely one of my confidence baits, and Destroyers are pretty good too. I like the Destroyers.
I bought a bunch of those quiver worms to throw in jig worms, and I just didn't do it enough this year. But I got a whole bunch of them to try.
I like the Crawfather. It's kind of like, it's nothing crazy special, but I love how slim that profile is. So for finesse jigs, you can cut it down on a Ned rig. I cut it down and put it on those Kitech football jigs. I really like that on there.
That tiny, tiny little hook.
That thing catches too.
Yeah.
Another good bait for that too is the G-Crack, the bellows craw.
Yeah, I got some. I'm staring at some over here, but I didn't want to, sound like I'm addicted to buying tackle or not. Just pulling out.
I love expensive JDM craw baits. I got a whole pile of them, and they all have a specific purpose.
My favorite flipping bait is the Demiki Air Craw.
I've heard a lot of people say they really like that as a flipping bait.
I love it for flipping grass, but I think where it shines is when those largemouth are on bed and they're being pains in the butt. Because the craws obviously float. So you don't have to do much. You just let it sit there and you just take your finger with your line and it just pisses them off.
My favorite flipping bait is a big bites bait. It's a fighting frog, man. I've caught a lot of really big fish on that fighting frog. Probably the biggest one I've caught in the last 3 years was on fighting frog on Lake Barkley.
I don't think I've ever seen that.
Oh man, it's awesome. And you can rig it on chatterbait too, and it kind of does the same thing as that swim on.
So if we're going like this style flipping baits, probably my favorite, and I don't flip this like cross style baits all too often, would be a Fuzzy Beaver by Riot. They're pretty legit.
I've got some. That's good bait. He makes a really good micro jig too, by the way.
He does. I got a whole pile of them. Matt Stark has some good stuff.
Yeah, he's a pretty cool dude too. So,
what is that new? Crap! What is the new Reaction Innovations? Crap! I'm blanking on the name of it now.
Beaver.
The what?
Spicy Beaver.
Spicy Beaver.
Spicy Beaver. That's the one. That thing makes it falls very slow. Because those tails
are awesome on a football jig.
Football jig, eh? Interesting.
I'll throw that on a heavier flipping jig as well. I'll usually have one jig rigged up with something like a speed craw or a menace grub, and then I'll throw a heavier one with a Spicy Beaver, and just if I can get away with it, like and power through, and if they're really chomping, I'll go with that spicy and really move some water. Show them something different.
Yeah. Yeah, Lucas, a Spicy Beaver is like a Rage Menace on steroids, pretty much.
There's another company. They don't make anything bad either. If they made it bad, they continued it. So,
so we think about the pit bosses. Like, they still make them in the power bait, but they got rid of Havoc. And there's a lot of guys that love that Havoc pit boss.
I still got a bunch of packs of them.
And a lot of people don't like the power bait ones as much.
Well, yeah,
personally, I think power bait's slightly overused, and every fish in the lake has probably smelled it 400 times. I personally like the original Havocs as well, the pit bosses.
Mm-hmm. I think they're a great flipping bait.
Well, I was just in a store this morning. It's got a rack full of the Havoc ones. So if somebody's looking for any of them, I know where some are at.
There was just some guys in the Minnesota Bass Heads group talking about how they need to get some more.
Send them my way. I'll only mark them up a couple $2 a bag, Rich. So.
Kev, has anybody ever seen the other side of your little bait cave in there?
I don't know.
Or have they only seen that?
I got it. Maybe here we go. Here's it. Let's see if I can get this thing rotated here. So this is the electrical panel for my house. So if something goes down while I'm in here, I can shut it off. But I've got a bunch of buzz baits and spinner baits. I'm actually in the process of rearranging this. I have to tip my room a pegboard. Yeah, the whole room's pegboard. So I got swim baits up here, and then I'm just going to rotate my TikTok light a little bit.
There's your water heater.
Yeah, YouTube page for that water heater, by the way.
Shout out to Richmond Water Heaters.
Yeah. And then I've just got soft plastics all up on that wall.
It's like a bait closet. It's wonderful.
Yeah, it really is. And now my TikTok light's trying to mess up on me, but yeah, and then it's pretty much 360 degrees of baits. And I got swim baits and all kinds of stuff way up here that,
It looks like he's dabbing right now.
I am.
Yeah.
I was actually. I bet people have been requesting like a walk through the bait room, but it's like it needs to be cleaned really bad, and I'm not fully organized, and I don't think it ever will be. But I can't walk through it because I got so much stuff. Like I got boxes under this table. I've got like it's bad. So.
Were those across from you? Were those Yamamoto? What do they call the spider? I can't remember.
Yeah, I've got a bunch of DT grubs, which is double tail. I've got the Yamamoto spiders, and they make a power bait, a spider grub that's really good. That's a sneaky little deal here I don't talk about much. Is like throwing a spider grub, skipping under boat docks here, catches fish.
Interesting.
Yeah, I got problems.
Right.
Hey, you're just giving away all my secrets.
Sorry,
At least we're on like the same page. Like I actually think
it
that's
just
kind
means
of cool.
if we go fishing, we'll both be in the zone and we'll know what's going on.
Heck yeah. There's all kinds of like sneaky little things I'll do. I don't even think I've told Bailey like a third of them. So
out on me. What do you guys think about one of the questions I got on Instagram was is tungsten a must-have when it comes to performance?
90% of the time, depending on what you're doing. If you're flipping, drop shotting, yes.
Dragging?
Yeah, see, I think if you're fishing offshore like we do with the big worm and stuff, I think now it's a must-have. Back in the day, I didn't realize how much I couldn't fill with those lead sinkers. Now it's all I use is tungsten.
Yeah, I don't know if it's a necessity, but it's really nice. It tells you a lot. You definitely feel more. You detect more bites. You detect bites quicker.
Let me ask you this question. Take one or keep one. You can either have fluorocarbon line or you can have tungsten weights. Which one are you keeping?
Tungsten.
I'm saying fluorocarbon.
I'm going tungsten. Because if you buy the right mono, you can almost get away with it.
I'd probably go tungsten. I think mono, copolymers have come a long ways. Like, there's probably some really good copolys out there. I caught a lot of fish on AN40 back in the day.
I actually have a buddy who still only uses mono, and every year he'll win a tournament or two. And he always catches good fish. Always. Even on Lake Erie, he throws mono in 25-foot clear water, visibility water, and he still catches big fish. He doesn't get as many bites, but he still catches them.
I would have to say, me honestly, I would keep fluorocarbon and get rid of the tungsten. Because I throw a lot more moving baits. I do throw a jig. But most jigs I throw are lead. I just feel like I can throw everything except a daggum, frog doesn't need tungsten weights. So, give me the fluorocarbon.
I could go braid to mono leader.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like on a drop shot, I feel like tungsten isn't that important. I feel like more of what line and rod you have is more important than the tungsten itself for feeling the bite.
I'll circle back there and tell you 100 ways why you're wrong, but I won't.
Why not? That's why I'm wrong. I want to know why I'm wrong.
So when you're fishing Lake Erie, if you go from lead to tungsten, you go over a rock pile. With lead, you'll know it's a rock pile when you get hung up. But tungsten, when you go from that muck bottom into rock, you'll instantly know the difference.
Okay, fair. But what if you're just dropping on
spot
fish?
number one. If you're dropping on fish, it's still the same thing. With tungsten, you're going to know when you're on the bottom instantly, as to where it's lead. Sometimes you're not going to feel it because it's sinking. And depending on the bottom type, you're just going to see your line go slack.
Right. That's fair. Okay.
I'll have to send you some of these to try out, Andrew.
Ooh, those look good.
Elongated teardrop with the loop swivel on top, tie on.
How heavy do you make those in?
Half.
I can see where that'd be actually come in handy with a Bubba shot.
Ooh.
Free rig.
Oh yeah.
That's what I did a lot this year on as a co-angler. Basically, all I'll throw is a Bubba shot, which is a lot of fun.
You know what I really want to buy? This bait's got a lot of hype
Everything.
to it. It is the new. If I had a middle finger right here, you would see it.
You can just give it to him. It's fine.
We don't care.
Man, this bait's been blowing up social media. It's called a Tech Baits in the BOGO Magic color. It's kind of like a beaver, but it's got some extra ridges that helps it go through the grass a whole lot better.
Yeah. Proprietary molds.
Have you guys
have any?
Talk about bad baits 2020.
No, dude. It's cashed a lot of checks.
Steve's not here
I'm
anymore.
going to go refill my Mountain Dew real quick.
Yeah, Steve ain't here. He's not enjoying this.
Oh, God.
Zach with the home run. Oh man, I'm sorry for those who don't understand what we're
Don't get the
That's fine.
inside.
What is Kevin going to grab?
But Backlash Pro, have you guys seen the cover scat? You know what that is?
No.
Have you seen that?
I have no idea.
It literally looks like a dog turd. It looks like scat. It looks like a dog turd with a hook slot in it. It almost looks like a.
What is it?
It's
Is that
called
that
cover scat. It's
from
a
who?
JDM.
Yeah, okay, I have seen that. It literally looks like poop.
It does with a hook slot.
Hmm.
It's supposed to be like a bluegill craw imitator.
Huh.
Was that
Baitman, do you have any-
Tech Baits?
Do you have any cover scats in that room of yours?
No.
How would you
Would you
describe
ever
it?
throw the cover
What
scat?
does the cover scat look like to you?
A turd.
Not like a
No,
TRD,
real one.
but like an
not-
actual turd.
Yeah, it's not like a TRD. I mean, it's like we have a Yorkie, and it reminds me of Dink's digestion. It's scat, man.
It sure is
I have seen a
interesting.
picture. It literally does look like.
Yeah.
Yeah. Literally-
It's got some nice little ribs on the tail section, I guess. It's like it spun as it came out.
Evidently, the hookup tackle, when they get those in, they sell them out like immediately.
Really?
Mm-hmm. I think they designed that based off David Dudley's Ned Worm imitates goose poop.
That is so weird.
If you ever get really bored, watch that video. I love David Dudley. He is so out there.
He's
And he
funny.
catches them, so.
I love that he's not afraid to just literally say anything.
I can't
Very open.
tell whether he really believes it or is he just trying to sensationalize it.
I think he believes it.
You don't think he's just saying stuff for like just to see what
Oh,
people believe?
sometimes, but you gotta know Dudley. Like, he's just out there. He's an unreal fisherman. You
Right.
know.
Yeah.
I met him a couple times. I mean, in normal conversation, he's bringing up weird stuff like that. So I'm like, well, I don't think he's just putting this stuff on YouTube for clicks. He probably knows it to get the clicks, but it's not out of his wheelhouse.
There's some truth to it, what Dudley believes.
I'm the lead. Drop shot finesse. 4-pound line for smallies tomorrow. Good luck, Scott. Anything else you guys got for 2020 or 2021?
I'm looking up this other color, these tech baits that I was interested in. It's called the BOGO Beaver Signature Series bait. It's $6.50 a pack.
How many did we get for 650?
$6.50 a pack.
How many?
For how many?
Hopefully a dozen for that price.
Probably
I'm
gonna
gonna
be
go 8.
The BOGO beat down is just pretty good. Just black and blue. We got a new color. Bogo's Jam is kind of like a PB&J. I think that would be the one.
But how many come in a pack?
8. Whoa, that is $650. That's expensive beaver.
That's like
and
a
React
kinky beaver.
Innovations puts like 12 in a pack.
Yeah, but like their kinky,
$4.99.
the kinky beavers and spicy beavers are that expensive. But
Yeah, I'm just going by the colors. You know, I really like those sick new colors.
you got a code for those, Baitman?
No, but you can get on Instagram and just DM Lucas Bogo Gossigan. I think that's his name. He's sponsored by Blaster Products and Kicker Subs and stuff. He's the one that designed those baits.
Applebee's.
And Applebee's. Yeah, look up Lucas Bogo Gossigan. Gossigan. Then look up his stats on the Bassmaster Opens. You'll want to buy this bait.
And FLW. Don't cheat yourself.
You need to get him on the podcast, Bailey. I'm putting you on the spot here, man.
I'm gonna leave that.
That's 100% Rich's game.
Rich can have him on.
I'm all about getting new and interesting characters on podcasts, whether they can fish or not, collect baits, or just do something cool in the outdoor industry.
Fair enough.
So
Josh Fishwell says $650 for a beaver is cheap.
For beaver, not for a beaver, but for beaver.
For the pelt, probably.
yeah, Steve is here.
He stayed. He does almost.
Oh, man.
This guy here, Steve, is a good buddy of ours, and he's probably the happiest person this side of the Mississippi.
Good gosh.
That's too funny. Let's see.
It's actually Bogo's Bogosigan's fishing partner, I think.
They travel with each other to the opens.
That's how I learned about that bait. Dave said, like, great question. Evergreen soft shell frog. It's actually a good frog. It walks really easy. It's a bigger size frog too. I like it. They've been out for a few years now, and I was told the other day, someone told me they're going to make a smaller version of that. Right now, small frogs like that Jackal Cara frog, they're kind of in. People are going to those smaller frogs, kind of finesse fishing a frog. So,
like that, like a Strike King mini.
Yeah, like the Strike King. They got the Sexy Frog Junior, the Jackal Cara frog, the Mega Bass. There's a baby Gabo frog. So,
okay, genuine question
about that Cara frog. And the Gavacho too.
Gavacho?
Yes, I love the Gavacho.
I went on to order one of the Strike King frogs, and I just ordered quickly and blatantly. I didn't even look, and I ended up accidentally ordering the minis. Has anyone ever thrown those before? I'm curious if so. What are you throwing that on? Because I don't think you throw that on a bait caster.
I throw it on a bait caster.
Really? What do you? What's your setup?
You just excuse me. That Mountain Dew is really bad tonight. Instead of I normally would throw a frog on like a 7.4, 7.3 heavy. You just throw it on your 7-foot medium heavy rod. I wouldn't throw on a 65-pound braid and get away with like 30 or 40. But
interesting.
They're small. They're like this big. That Cara frog is bigger than the Strike King, man.
Yeah, same frog he throws his Lunker Hunt Spider on.
In my tiny fishing creek.
Mm-hmm.
Hashtag giant spillway.
Cops called. We are going all over the place tonight.
For fun, Baxter, I ordered a couple of baits from TK.
Let's see.
Oh,
Dude, that looks good.
It's like a ghost chartreuse or copper truce parrot color.
Don't chow that.
TK's paint schemes are really good.
And this one, you ready for this one, Baitman?
Yeah.
It's like a ghost Jaint juice.
Oh yeah, that is sweet. That is really sweet. My buddy Justin Royal tore them up today in Texas on that flat 75 and Jaint juice. It's kind of crazy. So, and I just happened to be wearing one of his shirts. He's a really good guy. You need to get him on here, Bailey. He's really kind of blowing up on the YouTube. Very humble guy.
Who's that?
Justin Royal. He's got about, yeah, man. He was like always in my chat, which is fine in my live streams. And he had about 3,000 or 4,000 subs. Man, this year he blew up. Went from like 4,000 to ended 2020 with 20,000 plus subs. Jeez. Makes a video like every day too, man. I don't think people understand the grind it takes to be really successful. Like, you know, Rich is doing a really good job, man. I give it to him. And, you know, we've got several friends that are trying to do the YouTube thing, and just getting content out, man. That's the hardest part. I work full time, and to me, it's easy to flip on the webcam and if I want to talk about something, we'll stream about it. But there's a happy medium between streaming and putting uploads, and Rich is really good about do a little streaming, do a little uploading, so you're getting the best of both worlds. Or we can just follow our subscribers and say we've got a huge following. So
the key to growth is just hanging out in the Baitman streams live. That's my key to success. If it worked for Justin, it's going to work for everybody, right? So just hang out in the Baitman streams.
You're just a way for people to come and blossom, Kevin.
Hey, man, here's the deal. If it does help you, that's great, because you know what? I'm all about helping people. I want to see everybody be successful and grow. Now, there's some people I would, you know, definitely like to hang a power worm under their nose for quite a while, but for the most part, I like everybody. I'm like the opposite of Steve.
Oh, that's funny.
Scott's enjoying it. He's enjoyed the 2-hour tour so far, he says.
Yeah, Scott's been here from the beginning.
Heck yeah.
Tim Maynard's been here for a while as well.
Yeah, there's some familiar names in here. Scott Stuckey says, best 2 hours of 2021. Tonight is our gold.
Thank you,
Scott's a great dude, man. He's been with me streaming from the kitchen. He's a good dude.
Well, appreciate your attendance, Scott. We are almost 2 hours. Holy crap.
Bailey and Andrew's been doing this for a long time, man. As far as getting really cool guests on, no offense to Epic Eric or Rich, or a few other guests, I've had some really solid guys on this stream. So
we've done what, 140 something episodes in 2020.
Golly.
Andrew came out around 100, I think. Yeah, it was literally 100.
Yeah, it was like September, like end of August, September when I came on, I believe.
Right.
Maybe a little before that.
Yeah, we've been going strong.
I don't remember the exact date, but it was sometime like early, maybe midsummer, right? I think.
Somewhere around that. Actually, couldn't recall the actual date of it, but we've been going pretty strong. And Rich has a good stream as well. And obviously, Kevin, we can't neglect yours, which is
my big 2020 announcement is I'm not going to stream anymore.
Except for tomorrow.
Yeah, I will tomorrow.
I'm not going to stream tonight. But
you got a topic for tomorrow night, or are you just free balling it tomorrow night?
I don't know. It depends on. I've got like 4 giant boxes from UPS of OG baits, like good stuff and stuff. Some of it I've never seen or heard of. So hopefully, you know, maybe Eric can get on with me. If not, you know, you can either come on or moderate or whatever. I like having guests because then I don't have to do everything all the time. If I need to go run the bathroom, I got someone to cover me.
Count me in.
There you go. That's the way to do it. What about you, Rich? You're streaming this weekend too, aren't you?
Yeah, this week, Wednesday. Well, so I might stream tomorrow if Bart gets his boat packed. We're gonna preview his trip down. He's in Minnesota. He's got him and his buddy James Chapman are fishing the ABT Top 100. So they're driving down to Minnesota to Alabama for 3 times this year to fish tournaments against
Lake, right?
Alabama Hammers. So I thought it'd be cool to kind of chronicle that and cover that and preview that. So if he can make the time, we'll have him on as a bonus stream maybe Sunday. But then my regular stream will be Wednesday. And this week we're going to have the guys from the Sickness on, Joe Willert and Greg Mansfield. So they both fished the opens this past year. They both did decent. They were right in the mix. I think they mathematically were still alive with 1 or 2 tournaments to go. I've fished against Joe Willert for a long time in Minnesota. Cool dudes, and they're going to go for a heavy schedule. I want to talk about this. They're fishing the opens and the NFPL next year. So I think that'll be interesting to pick their brains and understand, maybe get some inside scoop on that NFLPL league, LMF, or as Ike says, LMFL Party Rock in the House league. So yeah, and then the following week will be Josh Douglas, and the following week after that will be Dusty. So
Nice.
I'll wait till y'all get these on your streams, and then I go behind and ask them to be on mine. Just FYI.
Dude, you should with Josh. He's been putting out some good content on his tackle organization, like terminal stuff.
There's one thing I don't have a lot is guys that fish for smallmouth. I usually like Rich has been like my most northern guy. I don't take that offensively or anything, but my audience is pretty much from you take middle Illinois all the way to Alabama. That's the guys that focus on me. Like Smallmouth Crush obviously has a pretty good stream and everything, but his audience, they don't go out and stroke jigs and throw 7-inch swim baits on the Tennessee River. They're smallmouth fishermen, obviously. But I don't want to narrow my stuff down to just one area of the country. I'd love to get Cody Meyer on or somebody out west. I'd love to get someone from the Northwest. There's a lot of people that fish in that Washington, Oregon area. Love to get someone like a Havasu Hammer,
Josh Bertrand.
Yeah, those kind of guys, man, because I want to learn. I can't learn about the baits until I learn how these guys fish, are fishing. Because, dude, I get so many messages like, man, I fished this lake in southern Missouri or wherever, and what's the throw? And I don't want to just, I don't know. I want to give them at least a realistic answer. So I just usually say a green pumpkin Ned rig.
That'd be cool. If you're looking for Northwestern, you should get like Cody Holland. He's the one we've had on. Well, he's from Oregon. He'd be a good one to have on. But yeah, like Josh Bertrand, and for those who
you're good. An old Western guy. Brain big time here would be Gary Dobbins.
You might want to mute Baitman in case we can hear his phone call. But actually Gary was really cool. I had him on beginning of November, and that was a super fun stream. I mean, whether you like Dobbins rods or not, would depend on whatever you think about them. Gary was a really cool guest, and he dropped a lot of knowledge about rods and about techniques and about fishing and the West back in the day. And most people don't know that Gary, he threw out the number on my stream, but it was like 30 or 40 boats that he won back in the day. I mean, that guy was just an animal. Right out there with guys like
the U.S. Open 2 or 3 times, right? I think
something like that. Right up. I mean, Murray, right? What's Murray's first name? The guy that moved from Arizona, Jim. He's the guy that won. He moved to Tennessee, Arizona.
Talking about
he won on like Rayburn or Toledo Bend.
John Murray.
This is John Murray.
Yeah,
John Murray. Yeah. So like John, I mean, he's one. There's a handful of guys, and Gary's right up there with them, and just so much information. It's probably one of my most viewed streams, like replay wise.
Those are good ones.
One of the most underappreciated legends.
Yeah. I remember listening to I listened to originally with Gary, but Bertrand on his show had Murray on. That was a good one to listen to. A lot of good information from that one. I mean, I think Rich, now my favorite one with you is definitely Ben's. I went back and listened to a lot of that just because of smallmouth. I like listening to Ben speak because I like how he's creative with smallmouth. Everyone's got their gist of smallmouth that's pretty similar, but Ben's kind of got this outside the box thinking of things.
Sorry about that, guys. I had a lead on some original Vixens in the package, so I had to jump out of here.
One. Oh,
That's
those
right.
baits go for so much money on eBay. It's ridiculous. I have a guy who has 2 of every color that they originally came out with.
Oh my God!
In packages.
They do have one. I will pay big money. They made a Table Rock shad, and it's unlike any other Table Rock shad. It's almost like a foil G finish on it. And I had one before, and it catches. And I didn't really get it because it was chartreuse and purple. I just like that G finish. They put them on a bunch of old spooks. Man, it reflects light really good, but they go for like $100 a piece.
I think the only close one that has come out since is the Repo Man by Paycheck Baits, and now they're gone.
Yeah,
well, the Repo Man and the Teckle Kick Knocker are supposed to be all the same as the old Vixen, right?
Yeah, but I have issues with the Kick Knocker, the big one. Mine, both of the ones I have actually cracked and they leak water. I heard the Kick Knocker pup is the one to buy. They don't leak.
The pups. Don't buy the blade walker and bend the hook because it'll break on you on your stream. It happened to me.
The what?
You've never seen the Teckle blade walker? They're like a chatterbait wake bait.
I've never seen that.
Oh, I heard about it.
You need to go look at one of my streams. It was an unboxing, Tackle Warehouse unboxing stream. And I've got this Teckle blade walker. And I wasn't trying to do it on purpose, but someone said the hooks bend out really easy. And I'm just looking at it. I just act like I'm going to bend it, and it just breaks in half. $15 bait.
Jeez. That's not good.
I'll let them know, too, on I'm just going to be honest. I'll let them know on Facebook and whatnot. They never offered to send me another one. I said, so what do I do with this? And they said, sorry.
Huh.
Interesting.
How lovely.
Yeah.
Great.
Well, I still like their frogs, so.
Yeah. Fair enough. What do you got coming up, Kevin? Any plans? Obviously, you said you want to, for 2021, you want to fish a little bit more, but anything else?
Yeah, my resolution is don't make plans because usually it doesn't work out if I plan things, so.
It's fair enough.
One thing for sure is nothing's really for sure, Bailey.
I like that.
So, Baxter, do you think the whacker frog is just as good as the
Swamp donkey?
The old swamp donkey?
Supposedly it's the same, but I like the old swamp donkey pretty good. Is it me? Or, okay, let's. I'm be really black and white here. I feel like Teckle's made a living of just bringing back out old Reaction Innovations baits and Paychecks baits.
It sure seems to be that way.
And you know what they should also start doing is bringing back jackal baits while they're at it.
That's
Super Eruption spinnerbait. That is like my favorite spinnerbait of all time, even though they break after like 4 fish, like the War Eagle. But that bait is the only spinnerbait that I have found that when you free spool it, so when you finish your cast, if you take a short cast as it's falling, the blades actually spin horizontally with the bait. So the whole time the blades spin.
I have that new Jackal Doom. That's a really good one.
But the Super Eruption, I have one left, and it's.
I think Caleb Bell, Bass Quest, has talked about that before. Especially in the wintertime, you take that specific spinnerbait and I can't remember which A-rig he talked about, but like when there's ice down on the TVA, how you throw up on top of the ice and you bring it off so that it just straight falls and you get clobbered. Not a lot, but
literally as it falls, the blades will spin like a normal, like when you're reeling it in. It'll stay horizontal and balanced all the way down.
Yeah. It's one of Eric's favorite spinnerbaits too.
Yeah, my buddy Jake Lawrence that grides here, he loves it for that same reason. He likes to throw it over top of brush piles.
Mm-hmm.
I've never heard of a squeaky dolphin, the thing I just put up there from Backlash Pro.
Yeah, it's an old discontinued buzzbait from Reaction Innovations. It was super popular. They go for like $60 on eBay for a buzzbait.
I'd buy one for 60 because every time I see them, they go for like 100.
Okay,
they're really good too. It's kind of one of those people aren't really buying them to flip. they're bottom because they're hard to get because they're really good bait. Like if I bought one, I'd fish it. You know, how often do you break off a buzz bait? If you catch enough fish on it, it just
falls apart eventually.
Yeah.
All right, fair enough. You guys got anything else for tonight? Any last remarks that the folks should know before we get to sign off here?
I would just say if you're new to the stream and you came here because you've watched Baxter's and my shows in the past,
hit that sub button.
Hit the sub button, but more importantly, take a little look-see back through some of Bailey's and Andrew's podcasts. They got, whether you want to do it on your app or on the YouTube or on Facebook, go take a peek. And what's up, Ronnie Kelly?
Yeah, there's the next guy right there. Get Captain Ron. If you want, Captain Ron's awesome. He's nutting a squirrel turd, but he's a great fisherman.
Yeah, I mean, other than that, he farts on bass. Other than that, he's a pretty good dude. So
we talk around. We're gonna get around on the show here.
But yeah, like I said, you guys just do yourself a favor. Pick a guest or two, give it a shot. There's some good stuff to be found. Like if you guys are looking for more content to fill the time, and then follow up with what Steve said. I think that's an important note too.
I hate that guy. No, I appreciate it, Rich.
I'm not associated with them. Make sure you check out the Tech Baits because they definitely need your business.
Yeah, the Serious Dangler OnlyFans page. I like it.
Yep, that's what it is.
That's hilarious. Hey guys, I had a really good time tonight. That 2 hours flew by.
Yeah, I just looked up and I was like, "Oh crap! 2 hours and 6 minutes."
I think we're going to have a serious Baitman cast pretty quick too, and we'll help you out. We'll get a fatal 4-way on the Baitman channel.
Game for that. We've Zach,
backwards always.
Zach, Andy, and I have joked about this before, but I'm gonna put it out there to see who's interested. But a Serious Dangler segment where it's everything but serious. Seeing who would be interested.
You did that with Zach and Forrest like a month ago.
We did, but it can get worse.
It can get a lot worse. We'd get Steve on if that says anything.
We'll have to put it behind a paywall because I don't think
it'll be. We'll have to make a Patreon for somebody to enter to pay to get into those.
We won't be able to put it in public, so
we cannot be in public.
Probably not.
Members only / OnlyFans
/ Serious Danglers.
Well, Rich, I appreciate the kind words, and we have had on a lot of really good guests, including both the gentlemen, all three of the gentlemen sitting around me on the live stream tonight. They've all been on a couple times, and we appreciate you guys. We've had some really good guests, a lot of good information, and on the flip side, for people that might be here that aren't subscribed to your channels, they have a lot of very, very valuable information. Kevin knows about every single bait made known to man. Rich is just about on par with that, and Rich has fishing videos and podcasts himself, so check those out. We appreciate it. And
just to be honest, I know about the baits, but if you want to actually see people catch fish on them, go to Rich's channel.
Yeah, Kevin knows everything about the baits. Rich puts them to work.
Fair enough. That's a good partnership right there.
I can live with that, to be honest.
Yeah, everybody's got to have their role.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah. Well, sweet. I think that about does it for tonight. We will be going back live on Monday night with Jake Whitaker of the Elite Series. We'll have Jake on. That should be a fun episode. And on Wednesday, we'll be releasing episode number 1. We're having Nick Kuzvis and Kobe Pellerito on. We're going to do 2 different episodes with them. We're going to do one about specifically everything and anything jerkbaits, specifically with the Megabass 110 because they're both with Megabass, but then also talking about swim bait fishing, like what we talked, not big swim baits, but like small Kitex, different things like that. So that's going to be a cool little informational episode.
I'm sure that show will be all haze dungs and spark shats.
Are those the guys?
They're both Megabass guys.
Kobe is an excellent photographer too, by the way.
Very. Nick Kuzvis is a Canadian hammer. I think he had 3
over at Fish's Sturgeon Bay tournament a lot.
Yeah.
Which I feel like is mostly Canadians who show up to that every spring.
Fair enough. Well, any last remarks, fellas, before we end the broadcast here?
No, let's just looking for everybody to have a good 2021, and let's just keep these trains rolling.
That's
Heck
right.
yeah.
Safe.
I'm gonna head over to Smallmouth Crush and buy some used power bait.
Maybe like some used nitro buffs or something like that.
Nice.
Well, yeah, like Rich said, hopefully we have a good year. Hopefully it's better than 2020 was. Hopefully we get a nice reset. But appreciate everybody for tuning in. Thank you guys again. We'll see you guys on Monday.